Welcome to Sales Bites by Journey, where we talk about everything you need to know to be a killer at sales. I'm your host, Will Jenkins. Let's get it. Hello, and welcome to Sales Bites by Journey. My name is Will Jenkins, CEO and founder of Journey. And today I'm joined by one of my favorite people in the world, Dan Solida. What's up, man?
How you doing, Will? Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Excellent. I'm doing quite well. Excited to sit down and jam a little bit. Before we go ahead and get into some of the sales bites, give me a quick 10,000 foot overview of your background. I know you really well. So excited to have you on the Journey team. It's like the best thing in the world. But the rest of the world, they got to get acclimated with who is Dan. So give us the 10,000 foot overview.
Okay, cool, man. Dan Solida. I started my logistical career between my junior and senior year of college at Iowa. I was an intern at Coyote Logistics on the customer operations side, and I was lucky enough to have them bring me back for a full-time gig starting the summer of 2012, August of 2012, which is crazy to think it's been that long, but I have been in logistics ever since. I was at Coyote for about 7.5 years, all on the customer operations side, doing a whole bunch of different things over there, moving pretty much anything and everything you could think of under the sun. Had some little gigs in there, little stints with like US peak season. After UPS acquired Coyote, I had a brief stint on like a BD / we were lining up with a outside UPS sales rep. That was towards the end of my career or my time there at Coyote. After that, I was lucky enough to join the Molo crew, which obviously you co-founded. And I was even luckier enough to have you be my sales manager, taking me under your wing and pretty much teaching me everything I know about the customer selling side, which Lord knows, and especially I used to stink at that thing. And you talk about the mumbling and the fumbling through the cold calls and just eating my own words. I did it all at the start, and lucky enough to have you as my manager and teach me the ropes and get me solid enough to land some fantastic customers and really bounce back from a terrible start to 2021 Molo Salesman of the Year. So really cool accomplishment there. I think if I remember correctly, my book grew 900% in a year, which was just absolutely insane. The market certainly helped during that time, but lucky enough, I had some really big lands in that time and my book just exploded. So after Molo got acquired by ArcBest, I made one final move over to a company called Sage Freight. They're headquartered down in Brentwood, Tennessee. I ended up becoming their Chicago / Midwest outside sales rep for roughly 2.5 years there. And here I am at Journey. I was lucky enough to maintain the healthy relationship that we have together, and an opportunity presented itself, and it's already been over 2 months. So here we are.
Dude, time flies. And I will tell you, it's a lot easier to coach someone that is willing to do the work and roll their sleeves up and whatnot. So, it was a pleasure being able to build with you there. And I'm excited to be able to dig in and continue building gears. We're working through Journey. So let's talk sales bite stuff. But before that, give us a quick fun fact, and then we're going to talk about your topic for today.
A quick fun fact, believe it or not, I'm a father. I have a young baby boy who actually just turned 9 months old today, which
is
kind of incredible, because if you were to think about it, and this is why I think it's funny, back when you and I first connected, it was 2012 or 2013, and I was on the customer operations side moving some Aldi freight, and you were on the carrier sales side moving trucks all over the country. And back then, I viewed myself as a young, immature punk, and now I'm kind of a different man. I've grown into this mature father-like figure, and I would have never guessed it if you were to ask me that question 13 years ago. So just crazy.
Well, I'm incredibly proud of you. It's been really cool to see you grow, and it's nuts to think it's been, I met you in 2014, so almost 12 years now. Seeing you grow as an individual and a dad and in your career and a husband, it's incredible. So all my favorite things. It's the best.
It is. There's nothing better. I mean, true life things. And gotta say, we're fully into the adulting mode here.
Well, awesome, Dan. I really appreciate you joining us on Sales Bites. I know you wanted to talk about building trust and rapport. So feel free to start there, and I'll start to ask you some questions as you go through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, this is probably one of the most important parts of the selling cycle. I don't know about you, but if I don't trust whoever's selling to me, I'm probably not going to be buying from them, right? So this is something that
No, sir.
yeah, you pretty much have to be doing this quickly. And, in terms of like establishing credibility and trust, this is at the top of the list.
Totally. So as a seller, let's think about new opportunities, and then we can talk about opportunities that you transact with and you're trying to grow. For a new opportunity, how would you teach a seller to build trust and rapport with the contact that they're selling to?
At a certain point, you got to build it at a personal level. You got to get to know the person. Some of my best customer relationships that I had, I still talk to them to this day. We text, call, have a chat every now and then, talking about life, talking about sports, something going on, something that we connected with in that rapport building piece, right? I think there's something to be said about building that sense of that relationship. Obviously, at the end of the day, we have to do business together, but you have to like who you're doing business with. At least my best customers, I liked every single one of them. And I think they liked me too. So I think there's that piece of it. I think that's super important.
So let's say that I am, early on in the sales cycle with Dan. I'm selling to Dan, and whatever, you move a fair amount of full truckload. We haven't transacted together yet. We get a couple discovery calls. I'm still trying to figure out where my first opportunity is. Anything that you've done along that life cycle before we start transacting that helps you either accelerate the ability to develop that relationship and build trust, or lay the base early on how to build trust?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was exceedingly good at was active listening. I think a lot of sellers fall flat on this one. They like to hone in on what they do well, what their company does well. Just making sure that, features, things like that. They just hone in on what they're really good at, but the customer might not want that, or they might not care about that. They might bring up something like, let's just say a truck's arriving late and they're getting hit with on-time delivery percentage, things like that, right? If I don't hammer that, if they bring up something like that and all of a sudden I start talking about something else, they're gonna be like, wow, this guy's not even listening to anything I have to say. And on a sales call, let's say, I'll have a conversation where, say they're having issues with drivers showing up on time, right? I'll be like, so you mentioned something about drivers showing up late on time or not on time. And, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you need X. So I tailor whatever they say by repeating what they actually said and then driving that conversation forward that way.
Taking a note here, I think that's really helpful. I want to pull on that thread a little bit. Have you had scenarios where you didn't active listen and it backfired on you?
Absolutely.
Give me just tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It was really early on in my sales career, and I finally got someone on the phone. It was a cold call. She actually answered, and I just lost my mind that she actually answered. I started freaking out. My heart started racing. I'm like, oh my God, you actually answered, blah, 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 blah. And I just started running my mouth like it was on fire. And she could have said anything to me, and I was not listening because I was just ready to say what I had to say, and that was it. And at the end of the call, we hung up, and I was like, oh my God, there was no action items. There was no, what do we do from now? And it literally went nowhere after that. So that was a really early on in my sales career. I had that happen to me, and it was a massive learning lesson. I ended up burning a lead, which kind of stunk, but sometimes you have to burn the lead to learn the lesson.
Totally. You put your hand on the stove, you realize it's hot. Don't do it again.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about active customers. So we win some freight from a customer, move a couple of loads. Obviously there's an opportunity to expand. How do you continue to build trust and rapport with an active customer once you start transacting with them?
This is one that I would like to bring back, Carrie.
Nice.
We finally land this customer. We get them through the door. We go through the onboarding process. We're on one of our last onboarding calls together. And my question was, what does success look like for onboarding a new carrier for you? And the guy answered, and he gave me a little bit more of a detail than this, but ultimately he was huge on scorecard, acceptance, on-time pick, on-time delivery. This all factored into the scorecard, right? And he was like, they had about 150, 175 carriers in their network at the time. And he was like, you know what? If you guys land in my top third, that's success for me. And I doubled down and I said, we won't just be in your top third, we'll be in your top 10. And he laughed. He actually laughed at all of us on the call. He's like, ha ha ha, in all of my years, I've never seen that before. If you do that, unbelievable, right? So then Haley Siegel, my operations specialist, shout out Haley.
Shout out Haley. Best
if I didn't have her on my team, there was no way we would have landed in the top 10. But not only did we land in the top 10, we were their top 1 carrier for 6 straight months. And,
let's go.
Every single month that scorecard came out, I forwarded it to the decision maker and I said, you see? So not to say you should double down on every discovery call or onboarding call, but that one ended up working out. And I was so appreciative of Haley and the rest of the team to make that happen. But it definitely helped.
So a couple of interesting items of that. First, active listening, which you mentioned before. You asked a targeted question. You listened to what they had to say. And then from that, you took action internally to execute. Can't really think of many other ways to build trust with someone. They state something is important. Cool. Let's clarify all the pieces of it. Boom. We'll be back and actually do that. It's the best example you could ever think of. But then you leaned on teammates. This is a very hectic industry. There's always a handful of people, not just yourself, that have to make sure that things go right for a customer. And so I think building that trust amongst the group internally and externally with the customer executed what they wanted long-term way more effectively than if you would have tried to do it all on your own.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think you just hit on something really interesting there where a lot of folks in the industry tend to only care about external relationships versus the internal relationships. And I think both are equally as important. And in terms of like nurturing and rapport building and building those relationships, both are equally as important. Because like I said, if you don't have the team internally to execute on the back end, you can land all the customers in the world, but you're not going to get anywhere with them. You're not going to move more freight or make more money off of them, right? So, it has to be both. It can't just be a one-way road.
Two-way street.
That's right.
Absolutely. Exactly. A two-way street. Okay. So let's say I'm a newbie in the game and I get a chance to sit down with Dan and I'm trying to learn 1 or 2 other tips on building trust and rapport. It could be either for active or customers that I'm pursuing. Any other things that you think are super important as I'm new in the game and starting to build my book?
Yeah, I think there's something about emotional intelligence in there. I think there is a lot of folks in the industry are young, maybe coming up with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, maybe even a little bit arrogant. Maybe they even think they know everything and they haven't been knocked down a peg or, hit with a reality stick. I think there needs to be a sense of emotional intelligence in there because at the end of the day, some of these decision makers that you're going to end up talking with have been there longer than you. They're doing this longer than you. They've seen more than you've seen. And you really need to remain humble. There was a time in my career where I was that guy. I was a little bit too arrogant. I came off a little too cocky. And, even one of the customers I'm still talking with to this day, when we first started working together, he still pokes fun at me. He's like, you were that arrogant Chicago punk kid that I used to work with back in the day. And
it's amazing.
Here we are like 10 years later, still talking, and we still bring that time up because over that 10-year span that we've had that relationship, he's seen me flourish and blossom into this completely mature husband, father, all the things that you know about me. And I don't know if I would have been there without honing in on my emotional intelligence and that maturity that is needed.
Matt, I love that. It's a full circle development of your career as a sales professional, but also developing those relationships with customers. I'm going to go ahead and recap some notes. Let me know if I missed anything and if there's anything else that you want to chime in on. The first one I took was this element of building trust and rapport is one of the most important elements. So we have to make sure we take that seriously. You want to build trust at a personal level, so get to know them as an individual. That's going to happen over the life cycle of that relationship. Active listening and paying attention. man, if they say something, make sure you write it down, note it. Don't go off on a tangent on something that's unrelated. Related to that, tailor the convo to what they said. Ask targeted questions to understand their needs. That way you can follow up and build trust based on the things they're saying that are important. This is a team game. Develop relationships internally, trust and rapport internally, because that goes a long way with executing for customers externally. And then the last two are huge. I think these are massive unlocks for anyone in their career, whether you're in sales, management, doesn't really matter. Emotional intelligence and remaining humble. You want to be emotionally intelligent. I think some of the best professionals you and I have probably ever worked with were extremely emotionally intelligent, and they're not afraid to admit that what they don't know and learn.
Absolutely. I think right there, that last piece you hit is all too valuable, because some of us like to think we know it all. And I don't know a more powerful sentence than saying, I don't know, but I will find out. Instead of faking it on a call or something where you get put on the spot and you don't know the answer, saying, I don't know, but I will find out. And then actually following up after you do find out. That's super valuable.
Absolutely. Dan, this was incredible. I appreciate you spending some time here with us on Sales Bites today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.